she's here to give us her take on that. So thanks for coming on, Syrian Girl.
Thanks so much for having me on, Alex. Even though I'm, don't have to say it, I really respect the fact that you allow people onto your show, even if you don't agree on everything. And so I'm glad to be here.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to agree with your perspective. I think you're right about all this. It's just that Iran's been pushing us around, and Trump, and working with the deep state, I think, to embarrass Trump. So that's why he went ahead and killed him. And so I know why Trump did it. I'm not even saying in the fullness of it, I think it's a good idea. But I do see why Trump did it. But give us your expert take on this.
Well, firstly, this man, this is probably the first anyone in the U.S. has heard of him, but he is actually a very powerful general in the Iranian military, probably the most powerful general. And in fact, he was working with the United States to fight ISIS for the last few years. He fought alongside them in battles in Mosul, at Kirkuk, and also in Afghanistan. So, he has in the past been seen as kind of a friend. And now they've suddenly come up with all this stuff about him after they assassinated him, saying that he killed Americans whose names we haven't been told. And now they've changed it to he hasn't killed Americans, but he will kill America. He was going to. And that's why we killed him. Of course, all of this is not really true. This is just justification. This is about isolating Iran. The problem they have is that the deep state had this goal. They were going to get, in Syria, al-Qaeda in power. So if we remember you were there, I know you fought against the Iraq war in 2003, and all the propaganda and lies that we were told then. We were told that the Shiites were going to greet the United States as liberators and that they were going to get rid of Saddam. And after 2003, they got rid of Saddam, which wasn't a religious man. And they basically, the U.S., under the U.S.'s control, they installed a Shiite government. And now in Syria, they're trying to get rid of Assad and they tried to install a Muslim Brotherhood government. We know that. That's just a fact of history. And we know that al-Qaeda and the leader of al-Qaeda is still holed up in Idlib, where the leader of ISIS was also holed up, al-Baghdadi. And yet we have statements coming out from the White House saying that they don't want Assad and Russia to go in and get al-Jolani, and yet they have time to assassinate this Iranian guy that fought ISIS. So the plan was to get Shiites in power in Iraq, to get the Muslim Brotherhood or Sunni extremists in power in Syria, and then have them fight each other. Now that didn't work out. So now the Iranian presence in Iraq has become more of a liability, and that's why they're targeting it. And if you notice in last week when they struck the Iraqi-Syrian border, that's also goes to show you that what they're targeting here is that alliance, that connection between Iraq, Syria, and Iran. And that's it's a danger not to the United States,
they don't want
but to
Iran
Israel.
linking up and creating their own Shiite Islamic State through there. Why then, and of course what you're saying is true from that perspective, you're right. Why then did they attack the embassy and give Trump the pretext to kill him?
Well, Iran didn't attack the embassy. It was Iraqis who was protesting outside the embassy. The reason they protested was because of the bombing that happened on the Syrian-Iraqi border. Those Iraqis, while they were, supportive of Iran, at the same time, we have to remember that a couple of weeks prior to that, other Iraqis that were supported by the United States attacked the Iranian embassy and destroyed that. So there was all this stuff happening beforehand that nobody is linking together.
No, you're right about all that, but they did go into the facility and burn a bunch of it down and take stuff too. They weren't just protesting outside, and a lot of them are with the, in the militia that's controlled by Iran. But I understand it's an ongoing. Right, so what do you think is going to come out of this? The
Iranian embassy was burned as well. They went inside that and burned it too, but Iran never assassinated.
Where do you think all this is? Sure. Where do you think all this is going?
Well, unfortunately, these militias that Iran is supporting, Hello? Sorry.
Yeah,
There was an error message that popped
I
up on my
understand.
computer. These militias, they did fight ISIS alongside American soldiers. So, yes, they are militias, but the fact is, even Syria has had to use militias because the army wasn't enough. They call them PMF, the People's Mobilization Forces. Unfortunately, because ISIS was overrunning the country, they had to dig in to get militias, but those militias they did help out. And why create enemies of them now? That's the question. What's going to happen now? Well, we're witnessing what's happening now. They're going to have a troop surge, and the Iraq invasion is going to happen all over again. It's going to be 2020 is now 2003 all over again, except now there's no allies. There's no Shiites to work alongside with as there was in 2003. Now, both the Sunnis, the Shiites, and even some of the Kurds have been disgruntled. Now they're all the enemy. And who has been supportive of such a troop surge? Nancy Pelosi said it was needed. I mean, this woman, her father actually was one of the founders of Israel. He was part of one of the original terrorist organizations that was active before Israel was created. It was regarded as a terrorist organization by the British to try to create Israel. So, she has obviously a stake in this. And I wonder if this whole impeachment against Trump was to try to force his hand into doing this stuff.
Well, and then you say all that and it starts convincing me because I know the history of all that and it's absolutely true. I think Trump's legitimately trying to get us out of these wars. The deep state's been trying to stop that, but he did work with Russia and at least got back to allow the ISIS al-Qaeda groups to be taken out. He's trying to work with Turkey, I think, to try to mop that up. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. I know that the deep state tried to embarrass Trump through Kim Jong-un in China until Trump got strong, and then Kim Jong-un backed down. So I think Trump's really sending a message
with
to
Putin as well.
Say that again.
Sorry, with Putin too.
Sure. So what do you think Trump thinks he's doing? Is my question.
I think, I think they told him that this is a bad man that killed people and we need to take him out. I don't think he realizes the gravity of the situation because now this man is one of the most powerful men in Iran. And so if you're thinking about it in terms of
I don't think he's the second most powerful. He was the most popular and most powerful person. I mean, because the Ayatollah is a moron, reportedly. So, I mean, he really was. We just killed the head of the Iranian government.
Something along those lines. And so anyone in the Iranian government right now is going to feel personally under threat. And if you're going to feel, or even any of the world leaders right now are feeling personally under threat. And if that's the case, what they have to retaliate. They have to do something.
All right, let's talk about that, Syria girl. And I promise, callers, I'm going to get to you one way or another. I love you. I appreciate you. And I respect you. And I apologize I haven't gone to you yet. But Carlos and Josh and everybody, I'm coming to you next with Syrian girl. But listen how smart she is. Listen how smart Pachenik is. Listen to all this. This is real politics. This is how really complex it is. It's not just this or that. It's really complex. Nick Begich is an incredible brain, a good friend of mine. And I have the fourth hour. The guest hosts know that I bump him, but I tend to just bump him every Friday now, and I apologize to him, but he's happy to do that. And I want to invite him up to host the main show with me sometime next week and get into other subjects of secret sciences and the admissions of weather modification and just so much more. But I'm going to continue on for the rest of the hour to make sure we get to all your calls. But the president was just speaking live. We'll get Syrian girl's response in his first public statement about the situation with Iran. It's very important. So let's go to the president right now, then we'll go to your calls.
World, Qasem Soleimani. Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel, but we caught him in the act and terminated him. Under my leadership, America's policy is unambiguous to terrorists who harm or intend to harm any American. We will find you. We will eliminate you. We will always protect our diplomats, service members, all Americans, and our allies. For years, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and its ruthless Quds Force under Soleimani's leadership has targeted, injured, and murdered hundreds of American civilians and servicemen. The recent attacks on U.S. targets in Iraq, including rocket strikes that killed an American and injured 4 American servicemen very badly, as well as a violent assault on our embassy in Baghdad, were carried out at the direction of Soleimani. Soleimani made the death of innocent people his sick passion, contributing to terrorist plots as far away as New Delhi and London. Today, we remember and honor the victims of Soleimani's many atrocities, and we take comfort in knowing that his reign of terror is over.
We're going to pause for one moment to let our Fox stations join us.
Perpetrating acts of terror to destabilize the Middle East for the last 20 years. What the United States did yesterday should have been done long ago. A lot of lives would have been saved. Just recently, Soleimani led the brutal repression of protesters in Iran, where more than 1,000 innocent civilians were tortured and killed by their own government. We took action last night to stop a war. We did not take action to start a war. I have deep respect for the Iranian people. They are a remarkable people with an incredible heritage and unlimited potential. We do not seek regime change. However, the Iranian regime's aggression in the region, including the use of proxy fighters to destabilize its neighbors, must end, and it must end now. The future belongs to the people of Iran, those who seek peaceful coexistence and cooperation, not the terrorist warlords who plunder their nation to finance bloodshed abroad. The United States has the best military by far anywhere in the world. We have the best intelligence in the world. If Americans anywhere are threatened, we have all of those targets already fully identified, and I am ready and prepared to take whatever action is necessary. And that in particular refers to Iran. Under my leadership, we have destroyed the ISIS territorial caliphate. And recently, American Special Operations Forces killed the terrorist leader known as al-Baghdadi. The world is a safer place without these monsters. America will always pursue the interests of good people, great souls, while seeking peace, harmony, and friendship with all of the nations of the world. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our great military, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Clearly, it's about the fact that the Islamic regime is very unpopular, and there is an attempt to overthrow it by the people. And folks want that to happen. And Trump does not want a Shiite-Sunni civil war starting. They let the Iranians go in with the Russians, and that's who mainly did most of the work. So when Trump's talking about taking out al-Qaeda and ISIS, I love our military, but it was Russia and the Iranians. Now the Iranians, though, are like, hey, we're going to take everything else over. We're not stopping. And so in Trump's view and why he made the decision, as I predicted, it's why he did it. They said, sir, he's going to keep expanding just like ISIS, so you have to stop him too. So Trump said, I took action to stop a war. Now let's see if he can control the neocons and the deep staters from that. Because once you feed the pirate, it's going to want more and more. But I do think they came, just like Syrian girl said, and said, sir, he's a bad guy. He does all this. You can show him at public executions, hanging people and stuff. And Trump said, well, get that guy. And because he's a real personal type guy. He doesn't want to just kill random troops. Oh, you want me to kill the head of something? I'll do that. So that's my view. And Syrian girl, your response to what you just saw the President Trump say.
I was more interested in what he didn't say. What was missing in his speech was any mention of al-Qaeda and the leader of al-Qaeda, al-Jawlani, which is still in Syria's Idlib. You know, we're being told that he needed to really kill this guy, but what about the guy that he really needs to kill, you know, the people that we were told are responsible for 9/11? So it's because that guy is currently fighting Assad, and the deep state doesn't want him removed. They don't want al-Qaeda to be removed. And actually, The Guardian translated one of one of the leader of Al Qaeda's speeches recently. So that was, very interesting. But yet they're killing the people who are fighting ISIS. And I do have to say, the fact is that the Shiites already took over everything in Iraq since 2003. They already had everything. So, but that was the point of the Iraq War, because they told us that the Shiites were the majority, and the Saddam was, had a Sunni who was a Sunni, and he was leading a Sunni minority, and that's why we have to flip it over to them. And they indeed the deep state wanted a civil war, and that's why then in 2004 the U.S. Ambassador wrote a constitution that federalized and cut up and carved up the country. They wanted a civil war. So, not to mention, you remember when they set up those explosives and they pretended that they were dressed up as terrorists while they were setting it up, the British in Basra.
No, that's right. But I mean, Trump's being told, though, he's going to stop a civil war. So he thinks he's stopping the previous policy of civil war, but you think he's being set up.
I'm very confused as to how this could stop a civil war. Like, this has nothing to do with anything to do with civil war. But Trump, we know, is being surrounded gradually by more and more swampish people like Pompeo, like Lindsey Graham. The fact is that he has been given bad intelligence in the past. For example, on Syria and the chemical attack that happened in Duma in 2017, 2018, we know now from the OPCW leaks that the whole thing was a sham, and yet Trump was misled into bombing Syria over that. That scene that you're being shown right now, it has been proven to be those
it's
kids.
now confirmed that it was a fake false flag. You're absolutely right. Stay there. I want you to ride shotgun with me, and I promise, if the hair didn't rise over Bear Creek, that's a combination of the hair lips, the Admiral, and the water doesn't rise over Bear Creek. Very politically incorrect. I apologize. We're going to go to Carlos. We're going to go to Peter. We're going to go to Gary. We're going to go to Tony, Mosh, Wildman, Baldy, Josh. I promise you, bam, 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 get ready. I'm going as your calls came in on the other side with Syrian Girl. Stay with us. Waging war on corruption. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Okay. I've been doing a lot better job taking calls. I'm taking probably 4 times, 5 times the calls that I used to. And the calls are amazing, but I'll suddenly go to like 10, 15 calls, and we get a bunch of guests on. Everybody sits there for 2 hours, right? And so we're going to go to you here in just a minute or two, and then I've got some of the statements of Chucky Schumer, all these folks. But I do agree with Syrian Girl. Trump is very informed about business and a lot of other things, and about PR, and he does care about the country, but he has not really been studying geopolitical systems like a lot of people have. And his instincts about being against war are very, very good. And that's what scared the neocons and others about him. But this killing Soleimani is a huge deal. He's the leader of Iran. He's not the number 2. And I don't see how they don't respond. If they're smart, they wouldn't respond. And the truth is, the deep state is incompetent, a lot of them. And they're scared of him. I mean, they've got sleeper cells around the world. I mean, Dr. Pachinik is a smart guy, but he's like, oh, we know who they are. It's not that big a threat. The hysteria that will happen if there's a big terror attack, and then the liberties will lose because of it, while the border's wide open, and the troop escalation. I don't like any of this. I like Trump. I know why he did it. And if the reason he did it turns out to be correct, well, then he's right. But it's a hell of a gamble. The problem is Iran is playing hanky-panky in the Gulf. They are pulling games. I get they're under sanctions. They're pushing back. Are they supposed to just take it laying down? But the way it's brought to Trump is he doesn't see it like that. He sees it as they're pushing. So, Syrian Girl, you're a smart lady, and I'm not being condescending. You're one of the smartest people out there when it comes to this. A very eloquent lady, as everybody can see, and attractive, which it's politically incorrect. I'm not supposed to say that, but we're not under Sharia law here, and you're not either, so I'm going to say it.
No, thank you.
But seriously, what do you think is going to come out of this? What do you think the neocons are going to do? How do you think Iran's going to respond?
Sure. Well, I think we both agree that after 16 years of war in Iraq, most people want U.S. soldiers to come home. And that now that ISIS has been defeated, for the majority. What's supposed what happened. But the military industrial complex, that would make them lose a lot of money. And so they wanted another excuse to stay. So now they targeted the people that were fighting ISIS. This is an act, what happened was an act of war. This is, if anything's an act of war, this is it. This is the kind of thing that started World War One. And now we are at a threat of world war. We are a threat of war, a big war. Soleimani was one of the people that made the Iran nuclear deal. In the same way that Gaddafi, he actually made a deal with the US and Europe and made an alliance with them, and he got rid of his chemical weapons, etc. But what this thing has shown us is that you can't make peace deals with these neocons and this deep state.
Wow.
You just can't, because they'll kill you later.
Syrian girl, everybody always makes that point about if people work with the globalists, they get betrayed. And you know what? You're right. Soleimani actually did make a deal with Obama and the rest of them. And then he made a deal with Trump to help finish up getting rid of ISIS. And now this happens to him. It looks like they'll work with you until it advances their position. But as soon as it starts advancing somebody else's position, then they betray him. And that's not a good way to operate. Do you think Trump knows that he's done that?
No, I'm sure that he's been fed exactly what the American people have been fed, which is these people are terrorists and they're killing Americans, which we don't know the names of the Americans that they've supposedly been killing. That they killed this contractor actually the contractor was killed in the Kurdish areas where the Shiite militias don't even really operate.
Sure, but the argument's going to be that the mullahs are unpopular. And that, this guy had a lot of blood on his hands and was torturing a lot of people, and that we should get out of the Iranians' way and let them have regime change. And I think that's really what this comes down to. And so if I seem schizophrenic on this topic, I'm not on most, it's because I go back and forth because I can see both sides of it. We're not a cult. We're having real debates here and real discussions. Syria Girl's our guest. Carlos, you're a real trooper for holding. I really appreciate you. He's a longtime caller, always a very smart fellow geopolitically, a doctor, I guess, or scientist or something, I forget. Carlos, give us your take on this situation.
Thank you, Alex. Syria Girl, you are one of my heroes. Believe it or not, you've done making a great contribution. And I want you to analyze my comments as I make them, because your input is really even more valuable than most people realize. First of all, Iran is an old civilization of people. They've been around the bend. This is a society that is very, very wise. And I believe with all my heart that they will take this in stride. They will keep their gunpowder dry. They will think about it, and they will rely on their allies, Russia and China, in a situation like North Korea, where I believe peace will prevail. I don't think President Trump wants a war. His actions, however, have to be looked in international law and whether they were in fact warranted under the circumstances. I know that Iran, and Dr. Pashinik was absolutely right, it has to be understood in history. If you don't look at history, you're going to make serious mistakes. I hope this action by President Trump is not revealed to be a very serious mistake. Rather, that if you look at the history of Iran, it was at one point a strategic move by Kissinger to have a pincer with Israel and Iran cooperating with the Shah. The Shah was not doing the things he was supposed to do. He was resented by the Iranians. He created the SAVAK, terrible organization, terrible, cruel. I remember that his agrarian reform was lousy, and he was removed by the people.
So let me ask you this, Carlos. We've got to get to everybody else, and I appreciate you. Gut level, how do you think this is going to end?
My feeling that it's going to end by Russia and China keeping Iran from going any further with this. And I hope that President Trump really sits down with Mr. Pompeo and fixes his clock. His clock is dirty. He was an admitted liar in CIA, and I believe he's still continuing his shenanigans to this day.
All right, I appreciate your call. Let's go ahead and talk to some more callers. Peter in the Midwest, thanks for holding. You're a trooper. Welcome. Go ahead.
Hey, Jones. Jumha. Sorry, Syrian Girl, you're beautiful. Got to say that because I've been following you for a while because I also fought kind of in Syria. Alex, I got to be quick on this. I was also an operator in China. I walked in kind of on some plans regarding a pipeline. The pipeline is now fully functional. There's a friendship pipeline between Syria and Iran and Iraq. There's a new one that just got started last year from Iran to China and Russia. There is going to be peace in that region. There's going to be plenty of money. But the thing is, if you think about it, guess what just happened last week? Where a lot of maneuvers between China, Iran, and Russia for the naval military and exercises were being carried out in the region. America was invited, but they didn't want to do it. Now, they said that there was a deal that Trump and Putin just carried out. Well, if you think about it, if you want a good energy deal, and you got somebody like Soleimani, who's got a lot of Iranian Shiite militiamen that are coming back off the Iraqi-Syrian border, and these people don't have anything else where to go because Russians are not going to let them go further. SAA is taking out FSA very quickly. But I really wanted to let you know that there was another thing that I was more concerned about that I got wind of from some of my military contacts in Africa, that some of the FSA al-Qaeda-backed operatives, about 700 of them, got flown out of Idlib and got placed down into Africa, and there's wind about them trying to collect Ebola and trying to use it.
Okay, well, that's amazing. Listen, callers, it's just...
I held for 3 hours for you, Alex.
No, stay there. I'm saying don't hang up. Start getting into it right now. I've got to go to these breaks, but start telling us about the Ebola.
Yeah, this is big.
We got 30 seconds to break. Start telling us.
All right, here I go. I got to go quick. I know you got to do the breaks and stuff. It's like this. They've been working with human smuggling rings with Al-Shabaab. The French Special Forces guys are fighting in Mali right now. They're still trying to contain it because they don't want to get them out of the Congolese region. Still some Congolese make their way through and get themselves down to Mexico. And then from there, that's why we've been seeing the outbreaks that we have. And you've been talking about the Ebola vaccinations and stuff. And that's kind of a front, really. Because
I got to hear it. You got to hold. We'll come right back to you. Stay with us. Got to hold more. I'll tell you, the ultimate sin, in my view, is these groups that set up things to play all the different sides. They call that being Machiavelli, being geniuses. I call it mental illness, the knowledge of evil. But definitely, Ebola can last in men's testicles for months and months, can be spread. It's a perfect sleeper cell type human bomb weapon. And I know they bring in Congolese with 1,000 every month right through past the Border Patrol, the Democrats do, and then disperse them. People are dying of kidney failure. There's reportedly Ebola cases in the Caribbean. That's mainstream news. And in the U.S., it's being covered up. People go, well, why doesn't Trump stop it? He can't control what's happening in the office next to him because of the treason. So just recap, Peter, and tell us what you were told by your sources and what's happening out of Central Africa.
All right. Basically, FSA, the Free Syrian Arab Army, most are getting crushed by SAA, and they're al-Qaeda-backed operatives. These are pro-human smugglers and stuff. They all got moved out of Syria. They got flown on a plane. They got put into Central Africa. And this has been going on for a few years now, ever since the second endemic outbreak of the Congo version of a virus, where actually it's a second version where it actually lasts a lot longer. It's got a 50-50 death ratio. They've been actively attacking all of the Congolese Ebola centers down there, trying to get a sample of the virus, trying to get the vaccine, trying to figure it out, trying to get people that have been vaccinated with it, that were tested on the virus, that are still technically communicable, and getting them out of Congo, getting them first. They tried to get them into Nigeria, and they tried to get them over to the other borderlands, and they've been still trying to smuggle these people. Now the Congolese people are getting into Mexico. They're coming here. They've been.
And by the way, we've shown hundreds ourselves, and then literally leftists come over and attack us here in Austin. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's your sleeper cell, Alex. It's really nasty stuff, and it's disgusting because the destabilization in our own country regarding all of, the human waste and everything on the West Coast and that stuff, it's just a breeding ground for it. You already know about that. Secondly, the Iran, China, Russia connection, if they've just got their pipeline working, they've got it working through the stands, through Kazakhstan. Astana is growing as a massive capital right now. Pakistan's going to start growing up with Karachi. And then, of course, even Mongolia. All of these regions are going to get a bunch of natural gas because Iran found a whole bunch more of natural gas reserves. Now, the reason why they're acting like this is because they felt kind of bulky for the fact that they had both Russia and China in the region to kind of protect them from acting stupid. But Soleimani, he kind of knew a lot about the energy crisis because he also knew where the money was coming in for ISIS getting funded from Turkey. Now, this is the biggest thing, Alex. If you cut off his head, they're going to have a power vacuum, and someone else is going to have to make sure that the deals get done for all of the energy resources in that region. And if Iran can't play around with the Suez Canal, choking off other countries for oil and stuff, even though they're getting their money from Russia and China. That's why they.
So what do you think's going to happen in the end game? The globalists are trying to bring down the U.S. Trump's trying to stabilize it. I think he means well, but this is a gamble, gut level. You sound like a smart guy. How do you think this is going to end?
We're going to look at a boiling point, but it's not going to pop off until something more internal crisis here in America happens. And that's the bigger concern that I'm worried about. The bigger concern is when we start having biological problems with this virus outbreak here in America, and the Virginia situation with gun confiscation coming up. And I hate saying this, but China and Russia, they're just biding their time, and gold is getting really valuable. It's all bought out in Germany. I understand.
That's right. They're trying to plunge the economy, and we want to warn people. But then if the economy goes down, then it only helps the globalists. It's one hell of a time. 2020 is so critical. Thank you so much, sir. Amazing call. By the way, we're going to get to all these calls because Owen Schroyer's coming up on the same phone board. He's going to go right to him if we don't get to you right now. But I'm going to get to more here in a second. Syrian girl, what do you want to say about what he just broke down? Because I know that ISIS and Al-Qaeda have said that they are trying to bring Ebola in and weaponize it. I know the Democrats and Soros are personally bringing in thousands a week to Texas alone. The Border Patrol can't even stop them. Federal judges let them go. They go, I don't want you tested. Boom. Illegal aliens can shoot women in the back. In California, juries let them go. They go, she white? Kill them. I mean, the left is in a war against America right now. It's insane. And so that's why we just hope Trump can, not be manipulated. What do you think?
I'd like to, make a comment about all of the callers, if that's okay, if we have time.
Yeah, go ahead.
The last one about Africa. There is a story that I heard that the Free Syrian Army or Al-Qaeda-linked militias were being transported to North Africa, Libya, because Turkey, which funds these Free Syrian Army militias, is actually declared war and is going into Libya now. So that's what I've heard, that they've taken some of those guys and they've switched them into there.
I mean, Turkey did just vote. Turkey did just vote to basically invade Libya.
Yes, but I haven't heard about the Congo thing because I think it would be difficult to carry that out because Syrians look like me, or me with a darker tan. So there would like 1,000 Syrians in the Congo would stand out. So I don't see how that would happen unless they were dressed up as aid workers. I haven't heard about that, so I can't comment on it.
Well, there's Al-Shabaab and all that, but you're right. Those are mainly Africans. All right, thank you. That's a great angle on that. Who's been holding the longest now? Josh in West Virginia, you're a trooper. Thank you so much, sir. Good to talk to you in the year 2020.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you, Alex. I'm a little sick, so don't mind my voice breaking up. I was just going to talk about stuff that happened in Iran. I was thinking that maybe China, Iran, deep state was all intertwined and trying to throw Trump off and make him look weak right before going into this first phase of the trade deal.
Yes.
And maybe there's some more facets to it, but I'll let you get to the other callers.
No. That's a great point. From your perspective, and this makes Trump look stronger, the Democrats and deep state are very upset right now. I think they were planning to manipulate this and get this a lot bigger. But I also see Syrian girl's perspective.
Yeah, I do too. I see about 10 different ways it could have went down, and I think maybe Trump spoke to or had somebody speak to this guy that they smited, the Iranian terror general, and they kind of dealt him a card to see which way he'd play it, and I don't think he played it the right way.
Oh, absolutely, that happened. Absolutely. Well, that my gut level, and then I talked to some folks that are hooked in pretty good, and they said that's what they've heard. This is really a message to Obama and the deep state and everybody. I mean, that Trump's going to start killing people because this guy was double dealing with neocons and everybody as well, and I don't think anybody expected him to just ignore the advisors and just kill this guy. Because, Bolton's like, I want war. I want to bomb Tehran. War. And Trump goes, here, we'll just kill the head of Iran. Because the guy runs Iran.
Right.
So it's a big deal. Thank you, sir. Great points. Syrian girl, that's the other perspective here is that Trump wants folks to know he means business.
Well, yeah, this is a big escalation, and that would certainly show the world that he means business. But at the same time, it also, what is the business he's in? it's the business of war, unfortunately. It's the business of keeping soldiers in the Middle East perpetually to get Raytheon and all of these weapons contractors money and to make these deals. I mean, this is all unnecessary. Also, what we're being told here is the same lies we've been told in the past, that we're going to be greeted as liberators, that Pompeo said Iraqis are celebrating this assassination, and Iranians too. The fact is that Iraqis, they were holding up his posters on the street in the video that Pompeo posted. They were holding up pictures of the Shiite Ayatollahs that were assassinated. And as well as that, they've been chanting anti-U.S. chants now, around Karbala, which was a Shiite city. So this is not this is an escalation. This is aggression.
You're absolutely right. But Soleimani was hated in a lot of the Arab world and seen as a boogeyman. I don't normally agree with Atlantic Monthly.
By Saudi Arabia, of course, the Saudis definitely hated him. He destroyed their ISIS and their Al Qaeda as well. So yeah,
Syrian girl, I don't know. Hey, listen, I don't know why you haven't been on the show in a while. And whoever told you I don't like having you on the show is wrong. I don't know who told you that, but I want to get you back on the show on a routine basis. Please join us again next week, and we really appreciate you. People can get your perspective on things. It's very, very thought-provoking at Partisan Girl on Twitter, and we really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.